Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over our next winter storm, which is going to be moving throughout parts of the northern plains into the Great Lakes and then back through into parts of the northeast. Many areas could be seeing a general 1 to 4 inches of snowfall, but some areas could be even getting as much as up to 6 or even 7 inches of snowfall. We're going to have your snowfall forecast at the end of today's video, and we're going to be timing it out for you guys as well and kind of showing you when to expect some of this snowfall. It will be a mostly snow event for parts of the interior northeast back through the Great Lakes and the northern plains in the Midwest, but as you get closer to the coast and as you get into the Ohio Valley as well, it might be more of a snow to rain event. So we're going to be kind of tracking that for you guys and talking about what could happen with this system. So here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. We have some winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings up for parts of the Rockies and the Cascades, as well as for parts of Oregon and Northern California in some of those higher elevations. We have some wind advisories in effect for parts of the Southwest, as well as some high wind warnings and watches in effect for parts of Montana and Wyoming. We have some dense fog advisories in effect for parts of eastern Nebraska, as well as some freezing fog advisories for the northern panhandle of Texas, as well as some more air quality alerts back through Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota, with some winter weather advisories further to the west of there. And then we have another area of winter lake effect snow warnings and some winter weather advisories in effect for western New York, and that's mainly from lake effect that's coming off of Lake Ontario and off of Lake Erie. Some of those areas even got over 20 inches of snowfall overnight, so definitely some fairly high numbers reported out of yesterday's lake effect snow event. Now, the records yesterday, we had the high temperature for the entire United States was in Titusville, Florida. That they got to 90 degrees, and that's in east central Florida. The low temperature was in International Falls, Minnesota. They got to negative 21 degrees. The highest precipitation report was in Brookdale, South Carolina. They got to 3.65 inches of precipitation, and that's right over the central part of South Carolina. And then in Hyder, Alaska, which is in the lowermost part of the panhandle of Alaska, going down pretty close to Canada there, that's where they got 12 inches of reported snowfall yesterday, and that was actually the highest reported snowfall for the entire United States. So that was definitely very, very interesting. It's the first time that Alaska actually had the highest snowfall report since I've been keeping track of these. So here's what the current European model is showing, and we're going to be kind of having to dissect what's happening in the atmosphere in order to understand what's going to happen with this system. So your storm's back here through Kansas and Nebraska by this point, and we have a big trough of high pressure back through parts of the eastern United States. So here's your high pressure that's bringing in a bunch of cold air. That 32-degree line is getting all the way down through southern South Carolina into central Georgia and northern Alabama. So it is definitely going to be quite cold, and especially for areas further to the north, you could be dealing with teens and even single digits for some of these areas. So it will definitely be cold on Sunday. This is Sunday morning, so you have some scattered snow and rain showers moving through Iowa and Minnesota, and then that's going to start to develop into a little bit more of a more developed system. What we're going to have to watch is how quickly this high pressure moves out, because there's nothing holding it in except for one system out in the Atlantic. So the Atlantic is basically wide open. There's no real ridges or low pressure in the Atlantic. So it's wide open. Anything can go through there, and that's what the high pressure is going to do. But we're going to have to see how quickly this low pressure, which you can barely see, but you can kind of catch it on the right-hand side of your screen, that low pressure is going to be what's holding this high pressure. And so we have one low pressure on either side of the high pressure, and this high pressure is going to have to move out quickly. So we're going to have to see how quickly that moves out. If this is still sticking around and this low pressure is moving into it, then you have more snowfall, especially for areas closer to the coast. If this is more of a quicker moving system, then you see more of the snow confined into the interior parts of the Northeast. So we're going to really have to watch out for that. Either way, it does look like parts of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa will get into some of that snowfall. And it looks like there shouldn't be any real mixing issues, especially as you get into Wisconsin and Minnesota, maybe into Iowa and northern Illinois. There might be some mixing issues. We're going to have to watch also how potent the cold air is. Some models are bringing the heaviest snowfall somewhat like this. Some models have the heaviest snowfall further to the north. So there are still a couple things that we do have to figure out here. So this would be by tomorrow morning, and then here to be by the early afternoon into the evening hours. We're dealing with that low pressure moving over Illinois, Iowa, and Wisconsin. Wisconsin, we have more of that snow back through with the western Great Lakes. Now, watch this. The high pressure is starting to move out by this point, but it does kind of angle itself somewhat like this. So now you're seeing cold air go through the east side of the Appalachians, and that's going to help kind of pull in some more cold air than would regularly be there. And you can kind of see how the high pressure was originally just going from north to south. Now it's kind of oriented a little bit more southwest to northeast, kind of like this. And that's going to be very important because now a lot more cold air is going to be pulled in on the east side of the Appalachians, and that's going to help bring some of those areas closer to the coast a start of snow, and then switch over to some rain later on. So this would be by Monday morning. We're dealing with more of that snow. Watch out if you live in the Ohio Valley in Indiana, in that general area right here. I think it might be more of a rain snow mix type of event than what you would typically see, because that low pressure is all the way up in Michigan by this point. So you're going to be stuck in the warm side of this. You're going to be west of the cold front, but you're also going to be you're also not going to be cold enough to actually see any of that snowfall, at least for the most part. So it should be generally a light to moderate rain if you live throughout those regions, and maybe a pop-up thunderstorm or two if you live back through parts of the southeast. That's where there might be a couple weak thunderstorms, although I don't think it'll be anything too noticeable and anything too major. Now we're dealing with that snow starting to move through parts of the mid-Atlantic and the northeast. Watch as it starts at some snow, according to this model at least, in parts of Maryland, northern Virginia, eastern West Virginia, and even back through parts of Pennsylvania there. And that's going to continue to head further to the east. So now areas in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania are getting into some of that snowfall, even heavy at times, but you get closer to the coast, and I think you have to go at least 20-25 miles inland to actually get into any of that snow. I think if you go past that line right there, or generally around that line, is where I think you have to go north of there to actually get into any major snowfall. But watch out, because you could see maybe a quick inch or two of snowfall just catch you off guard and quickly accumulate onto some of those roads, and it will be quite heavy snowfall as well, because the temperatures will be right around 33, 34, 35 even when it's raining. So it'll be either a cold rain or a very, very heavy snowfall. So we're going to have to watch out for that, and there are some definitely interesting quirks with this system that we do have to figure out and continue to look for. So we have that high pressure basically moving out, but you still are seeing some of the effects because of how it's oriented somewhat like this. So you're still seeing some cold air being pulled in to parts of the eastern United States. It is losing its effect now, mainly because we have another low pressure up here that's actually quite strong, and that should pick up the winds as well, but it's also going to help move all of this along. So instead of this just sitting here and the system just staying here for a while, this is actually going to have to be pushed out, because we have this next system back through Ontario and Manitoba and Canada. So because of that low pressure, we're going to actually see this become a fairly fast mover, probably under 12 to 24 hours in most locations, and this would be by Monday night into Tuesday morning. I think you might see some heavier accumulations as you get closer to the eastern part of Maine. The coastal areas might miss out on the extreme coastal areas. The areas that are within about 2 or 3 miles from the coast might miss out on the heaviest snowfall, but I think you go just a couple miles inland, and that's where you start to get into some of the heavier snowfall for most of those areas. So here's what the snowfall forecast is from these models, not mine. Mine is going to be coming in later on in today's video, and I'll update you guys on this storm probably tomorrow. So we see anywhere in the grays under 1 inch to 2 inches, 2 to 6 inches in the blues, and even a couple pockets of 6+ in the purples. We're dealing with mainly 1 to 3 inches of snowfall back through the Great Lakes, as well as 4 parts of the interior northeast. You get a couple miles away or a few miles away from the coast, and that's where you start to get into more of the heavier accumulations. Now, the European model is fairly far south with this. This is what the GFS shows, and you can see some of these areas in southern New England, areas closer to the coast, don't get in on any snowfall, where the European model was showing maybe up to 1 inch or 2, so we're going to have to watch that. And also, you can see that that band of heavier snowfall is pushed a little bit further to the north, back through here, but consistently the models have been showing that if you live in the southernmost Adirondacks and back through closer and east of Watertown, New York, there could be a band of 6+ inches of snowfall, mainly from lake effect enhancement, that we do have to watch out for. And then it's still showing parts of upstate New York, Pennsylvania, eastern West Virginia, potentially, and back through Vermont and New Hampshire, seeing maybe 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. Some areas could get over 3 inches. Here's what the icon model is showing, and this is a little bit further south as well. You can see that snow gets all the way down to the coast on this model, because it is a little bit colder. It also agrees a little bit more with the European back through here. It shows a general 1 to 3 inches of snowfall, and it also shows that band of heavy snow near the southern Adirondacks and back through into the interior northeast. It's also a general 1 to 3 inches, a couple of pockets of 4+ inches. And then here's the Canadian model. It's a little bit more robust. It also shows that snowfall getting all the way down to the coast. And I'm going to have to question how valid that's going to be, whether we're actually going to have enough cold air and whether that trough and that high pressure can orient itself where you can still get some cold air into the eastern part of the country. We're really going to have to watch out closely for that, because a few degrees warmer or colder is going to make all the difference. And even when it's raining over a lot of these areas, it's going to be 33, 34, 35 with temperatures aloft just a couple thousand feet up that are below the freezing mark. So you do really have to watch out for that. There will be some very, very narrow margins with these temperatures. So here's my snowfall forecast. Under an inch of snowfall, and this, by the way, goes from tomorrow all the way through Tuesday. Under an inch of snowfall anywhere in the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, back through parts of the Northeast, except for parts of coastal New Jersey, Delaware, southern Maryland, DC, and back through much of Virginia there. I kind of cut those areas out just because I don't think it'll be cold enough to get any of that snowfall. But if I do see the overnight model guidance tonight and into tomorrow still showing some snowfall for those areas, I might start to include you at least in the under an inch area. 1 to 3 inches of snowfall back through parts of the Great Lakes, the eastern Ohio Valley, and back through the interior northeast. You go just about 25 miles inland of the I-95 corridor, and that's when you start to get over an inch of snowfall. That's where you really start to get into some decent snowfall accumulations. I also cut out northern Maine out of that, and the main reason I did that is because it doesn't look like there's going to be too much liquid precipitation there. So if you actually look at the liquid precipitation amounts, those areas are getting maybe 5/10 of an inch or 5/100 of an inch of rain, and when you actually look at that, that's not too impressive of not rain but precipitation and liquid amounts. So those areas really don't have enough energy or moisture in the atmosphere to actually pull out any snowfall out of this event. So personally, I put them in the under an inch area. And then here's that 3 to 6 inch area. You can see that for northern Pennsylvania, upstate New York, in some of those pockets, southern Vermont, and into eastern and especially coastal Maine there. Away from the coast, if you live right along the coast, I think you'll probably be in that 1 to 3 inch area. So 3+ inches for some of those areas. I think some of the southern Green Mountains and parts of southern Vermont could get maybe 6+ inches, but that's going to be in the higher elevations. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.